Welcome, everyone. My name is Gregory T. Jenkins. I am the founder and CEO of Quintasia Studios, and this is the Quintasia Podcast. On our show today, we have with us filmmaker Mason Greer. Now, you may have noticed that recently we have a new film that we have available out there on our platforms called Through the Night. And Mason is the writer and director of that feature. We'll be talking, that feature, but of that short film. And we'll be talking with him today. We're looking forward to having that conversation. So, podcast audience, please welcome to the Quintasia Podcast, Mason Greer. Welcome, sir.
All right. Thanks for having me, everybody. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. All righty. So let's get started. First, let me take a quick note that if you would like to see, and of course we know that you want to, Through the Night, you should look us up on Vimeo. You could find it there. You can go to our website at quintasiastudios.com, and it'll give you information about the short film, and it'll link you to our Vimeo site. So please check it out. Let me ask you, Mason. Let me start off by saying, so how did you come up with the idea with Through the Night for Through the Night?
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting process where I put myself in a creative box. I had just moved out to Los Angeles, and I knew that I didn't have my crew out here yet, and so I was trying to come up with a very simple but engaging concept. So I limited myself. I'm like, okay, it can only have two characters. It can only take place in one spot, and they need to kind of be in the same location for a majority of the film, so we can get through the process very quickly. Um, so I kind of had the idea that for some reason somebody wouldn't let them inside their house. And so from that, it spun like, okay, why wouldn't somebody let somebody inside their house? I'm like, okay, they're sick. Well, sick's not interesting enough. Oh, they're a zombie. That's a genre piece. That's much more interesting. So that's kind of how this idea spun, which has never really happened for me that way. But I kind of started with this weird creative box and then kind of spun out from there. Then I added in James, the boyfriend character, who initially was alive in the piece and just didn't want his boyfriend to let in that other person. And while he was asleep, Weston ended up letting in that person. That's kind of how it initially started, and then it kind of went from there. And so then I had the concept piece written, and then I ended up finding my crew, and then we just kind of built out from there, and really found locations that would benefit the project.
Well, I think that your film is a perfect example of, personally, I hate the word high concept. Uh, I think
Mm,
it's overused, but I think that's a good example of high concept. It's very, you very quickly, you don't need a lot of setup time. You don't need a lot of,
right.
you explain the world very, very succinctly, and I think the audience gets it, and
Hmm.
we're immediately sucked into the drama of the moment, and I think that that's why it works.
Right.
So you you know one of the things that it's hard to do is to find chemistry between your cast and crew, and a lot of that affects how things work, and sometimes that bleeds to what you see on camera, the closeness. You guys seem like you had a really good tight knit unit there. So how did you meet your cast and crew?
Oh yeah, that's a fun story. Kind of all through sheer luck, and all of these people happen to know each other in the industry beforehand, and worked together multiple times. But when they submitted to be a part of the project, none of them knew that the other person was involved. So, for instance, my DP, who I'm close friends with, I was actually just at his house yesterday. He submitted. He was like one out of nine, I think, people like DPs that submitted for the project, And so I met with him, and then he was on board. And then the gaffer submitted separately, and the sound mixer submitted separately. But these guys were all really close, nearly a family at this point. And then my lead actress, who happened to be dating the DP but didn't know that he was attached to the project, submitted for the film. So she auditioned for it, not knowing that he was on the project. So how did this happen? I have no idea how this happened, but I was kind of the newcomer in bringing. I thought I was bringing everybody together, and they all knew each other, and I was the new guy. So now we're all really close and know each other, and we've worked on multiple projects together. At least including me. They'd already done it before. But yeah, that was kind of a funny way that it all happened.
Well, it really comes through, and I know that from my own personal experience, it really pays off when you're working with people that you're comfortable with, and there's that trust level. So again, I think it shows in what comes across on camera. So to our podcast audience, once again, in case you didn't join at the top of the podcast, this is the Quintasia podcast, and today we're talking with Mason Greer. Now, for those of you who have seen some of our other shows, you know how we roll. It's our management team that's posing questions of our guests. So now I'm going to turn it over to our CTO, Harv Lacko, who will continue the conversation. Take it away, Harv.
Mason, pleasure to meet you.
You too, sir.
You mentioned that when you got out to the West Coast, you were sort of new, and you were going to wait till you assembled your sort of crew and such. Location scouting is uh, a skill, and you mentioned a little bit about how you wanted to have it all, you know, gel out in the coast there. How were you able to secure the location for filming in the end?
Yeah, we well, first of all, we had very little budget to make this thing. I was riding off of, the couple $1,000s that I had stowed away from doing some small documentaries in the Midwest, and then, kind of coasting off the money I made off that, and then also trying to fund this project. So we knew we didn't have a lot of money to spend into this. So because of that, it took a long time to find the perfect location within the price range. And so we scouted, like, me and Dante, who Dante's the DP on the project. So me and Dante scouted probably 10 to 12 different locations, if not together, combined between together and separate. And we found some cool ones, but when we found the one we ended up landing on, the guy hadn't got back to either one of us about location scouting this place. So we just figured it was done. But, I kind of knew that I was never going to get this type of opportunity of people being as excited about this project and just like giving their hearts and attention to it. And so I really wanted it to be great. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to this guy one more time. And he happened to get back to me on the one off me doing it one more
Final
time.
time.
Yeah, yeah. Finally, he did, and he hadn't had a lot of things shot there. It's an amazing place, but I think only like Comedy Central shot there twice or something. And so he
Hmm.
was really looking for more, different genre pieces to come in. So when we told him about this, he was very, very excited and gave us a crazy, crazy deal on shooting there. And so yeah, once we got that and was like, okay, we can afford this. Yes, we're doing this. We're locking in the dates, all the crews available. We're good, we're finally doing this. But that took months of doing it. I mean, in 2016 is when I wrote this thing. Um, Started casting in January of 2017. I was still 22, and then we shot it in July, maybe something like that. Yeah, about I think about July. I was assuming that we would shoot this thing kind of February, March, which is why, I had location scouted months ahead of time, and then we couldn't find the right place, couldn't find the right place. We really wanted to be great, so we waited all the way to July to finally do it. But I could only do that because the crew was just so invested in it. They were like, dude, just take your time. We'll be here. Don't even worry about it. Whenever it gets up, it gets up. We're gonna do this. So yeah, having that type of creative space really, really made the project a lot better.
Now, in terms of the whole crew and your experience as an actor and certainly location, I mean, how has being an actor sort of helped you when you're working behind the camera?
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways. Well, first off, you know, just for people that haven't directed before, and the first thing you see is like directors talking to actors, and you assume that's like the biggest part of the job as a director, when in reality, it's like the tiniest thing in the world. And honestly, you could be bad at talking to actors and still be a good director. Most directors are. Um, but I think that there's a lot of benefits to being able to be an actor and understanding the process of acting when working with the cast, especially when you have a limited amount of time. So understanding the space that, that they kind of need to do things, but also the specificity that will help get them to where you want. I think a lot of times directors direct for a result instead of giving the actors something specifically to do that might lead to that result, or it might not lead to that result, but it will lead to something specific, and that's kind of what you need. For instance, I guess for the audience, if you had a scene where two people are talking across a table, and I'm making up a scenario on the fly, two people are talking across the table, and you have one actor that's just blowing this performance. You know, they're a theater actor, they're doing too much, everything's all over the place, and you want to bring them down. You don't really want to tell them calm down or bring that down because you're going to minimize the energy that they're bringing to it. Instead, you might tell them something like, hey, that person that's sitting next to you, don't let them hear you berate this person across from you. So now they have something, a specific goal to go off of instead of just do less, because do less isn't very specific and it'll probably kill their performance. So just things like that. Like I said, it's a small part of the job. It's really not that important, but it could make a difference in some of these small moments and really bringing out performances in your actors. So I think that's how it
So,
helps.
so, so I guess you're saying that really knowing how to work as a team and how to keep the people motivated, but
Mm-hmm.
also sort of keep them focused on what you want to see as the sort of working behind the camera. How to get what you want on the camera and not specifically tell them exactly that's going to change it,
Yeah.
but sort of motivate them to give the performance that you want to see. Is that
Right.
fair?
Yeah, because I think you want to empower the actor to, there you got to think about the actor as a department head. I wouldn't handhold my DP through the project and tell him where to put the lights. So I'm not
Right.
going to do that with my actors either. But if I can give them something to empower themselves to do something in a performance, then that's great. And that's what you kind of do with every department. So just specificity, I think, is the best thing that comes out of being an actor, because for you that helps. Like, what am I trying to do right now? I don't need you to tell me what my character's like, because if you have to tell the actor what their character's like, you probably cast the wrong person already. So just giving them something specific to do right now is kind of how I approach directing.
Well, thank you, Mason. I'll turn it back over to Greg.
Yes, thank you. And once again, just as a reminder to everyone, you are listening to the Quintasia podcast. And I would also like to take this time to say, however you came across this podcast, whether it's through YouTube, Facebook, or if you're listening through the audio portion on our various podcast platforms, please subscribe as you come through. The purpose of our podcast, we like to talk to media and entertainment personalities. These are up and coming filmmakers, established filmmakers, as well as those who are involved in the fight for social justice. So we have great conversations, and as I like to say, the only thing we're missing is you. So hopefully you'll consider subscribing to the Quintasia podcast. So I'm going to continue the conversation now. We're going to have Randy Wang, who's our controller, take it from here. All right, Randy.
Thank
Floor
you,
is yours.
Greg. Thank you, Greg. Mason, it's a pleasure meeting you today.
You too, sir.
My fiance and I had a chance to actually watch the film yesterday. It was a hot topic of discussion through the night, just the concept and the premise of the film. So great job there.
Appreciate it.
In a previous conversation, you had mentioned that you were surprised that this film seems to be the one film that will never die. Like, right, there's always interest. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the interest in the film remains so strong?
Probably off of a lot of things that we talked about already, just because there was a lot of, a care and camaraderie that was brought into it.
Right.
For us as the crew personally, a lot of us got a lot closer off of this. So I've worked with a lot of these crews on different movies now, different feature films that they've brought me onto, both as an actor and assistant director on all these different projects. But we got to know each other on this film. So there's that aspect of it, but then there's also, we had complete creative control of this thing. No, there was no oversight from other people. So we got to really make decisions on it, and I empowered my crew and trusted them to go through this process. And because we spent so much time on the process, it probably has turned out the best of all my short pieces that I've ever done. Um, because then after that project, it was a lot of, directing things for other people. And although you try to put the same care into it, it's like, well, but you have to shoot it here, or, you have to shoot it within this window, or here are your actors that you're working with. So there's things that can handcuff how good a project could be in that sense. And why it will never die, because I wrote in 2016, we shot in 2017, it came out in 2018, it did the festival circuit in 2019, and then it did it was on DirecTV for a minute, and part of this anthology series for a minute, and now with you guys. So it's like this project that just won't ever stop, and we laugh about it, but we still love it.
Right. Well, that's awesome. It's amazing to hear. You mentioned, other projects briefly. Can you give our audience some insight on what's next for you? What are you currently working on? What's in your future plans?
Yeah, I just got done assistant directing a project, so my next thing is actually going to be acting, which I think it's going to depend a little bit on people's schedules. They're still trying to figure it out, but it might be shot at the end of May, which is this month. Holy hell! So we might shoot in a couple weeks here. So I'm kind of gearing up for that project, and then I have a couple long-term projects that I'm doing. So I have feature scripts that I'm trying to get funding for, and then I have one ultra low budget feature that I'm trying to do at the end of the year. Not trying to do, it's going to happen no matter what at the end of the year. I'm just also hoping that these other projects pick up steam as well. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now, as well as hopefully by next month starting to shoot different commercials for clients,
Right.
which we're discussing right now.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I'm excited to see what's up next for you. On that note, Mason, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pass it back to Greg.
Okay.
So this is the part now in our podcast is more like a round robin discussion. I know I heard a couple of things that I kind of want to go back and address. So now I don't know if Randy, you'd be interested. So I'm curious. You said it was a hot button of discussion after you guys saw the film. What was the
Right.
discussion around, if I may ask?
I think it's being self-aware, right? Especially in this environment that we're living in. A lot of times we have like our heads down in our phones, or we're kind of just going about our day. So I had asked my fiance, who's a little bit oblivious sometimes to things happening around her, like if somebody came to the door, what would you do? Like if we have like the Ring doorbell, so we can actually see who's coming up to our door before, right? Not everybody has that. So I was just kind of curious. I was asking her, I said, so if you didn't recognize them, and let's say they looked like somebody I would be friends with, or somebody who was Asian, or you know what I mean, what would you do? Would you assume that, oh, I must know this person if they're walking up that 15 steps that lead to our front door? Like, if they would take the time to do that, would you let them in? And she was very candid and just said no. And I think a lot of it is a New Yorker in her, where she was like, I don't care who it is, if I don't know that your mom is coming today and it's unexpected, I wouldn't even let her in the house. Which then, it kind of snowballed into this. Well, at the end of the day, like, why not, right? Like this whole concept of just being self-aware, kind of protecting your personal space, trying to come to an understanding of how I would do things versus her. I'm glad, right? Because if she's female, and she's 5 foot tall, no more than 100 pounds, soaking wet. So I'm like, okay, well, at least she's smart enough to not just willy-nilly open the door, do whatever it is that she wants to. So,
well, I think that and the reason why I asked that question, it goes to part of the heart of why this film works, because to take a step back a little bit, I think we all like a universal feeling that people can have is like you come upon something, let's say, and you see that a person needs help, and you want to help them, but you understand that in doing so, you're putting yourself at risk. Now, a lot of times, in severe situations like where there's just you don't even have time to think about that, you just go. But this is a little different. This is somebody like, this character, he had left his apartment, he went out,
Right.
completed his task, and now he's coming back. He's happy to be alive. And he gets back in there and like, whew, okay. And see that comes across. And then you get that. And then now somebody's knocking at your door. Like, wait, what's this? And then the person tells them, hey, look, I saw you, you can't pretend like you're not there. I saw you go into your apartment, and look, I need help. If you don't let me in, I'm not gonna make it. I think that that's instantly a relatable concept of what happens if you're in danger and you find safety, but then someone comes along saying, hide me too. And I think that's why it works.
But I mean, it also goes back to that concept of like the film, was already released a couple years ago, like, but it's relatable and adaptable to the current time that we're in, right? Because what we were debating was, would our reaction in 2021 be different than if our reaction in 2018, 2019, 2020, based on what's happening around us, what's happening outside that door, right? Because, like you said, now that when I come home from a task, I'm excited, I'm happy because I'm working from home. Going out is rare now, right? Going out to do anything is rare. There's a global pandemic still happening. We're healthy. We're COVID free, so that's a relief, right? But now, when somebody's knocking on my door for help, I used to be more open to it. Now I'm a little bit more reserved to it, being with the premise of the fact that there's these Asian American hate crimes going on right now. I don't know what they want from me. I don't know what they're actually trying to engage in conversation for. That's one thing. The second thing is, well, I don't know where this person's been, right? Do I want to let them into my home where, yes, we're vaccinated, but hey, I don't know where you've been, right? So that's what we were debating, is that in 2021, this film is relatable to us in these ways. But in 2022, it might be something completely different, but still relatable. But you can always adapt it to what's happening right now, what's happening in the world.
So I'm curious, Mason, did anybody ever, your cast and crew members, did anyone ever tell you what it was about your script that drew them to the project?
I think for them, because I'm still friends with all these people, so we
Right.
talk about it quite often. But um, you know, the characters aren't that and I'm not using this as a diss towards my own project, but like strong in the sense of there's so much about them that's crazy. It's like, oh, there's this and there's that. It's like these are very grounded people that have very direct goals. And so that creates a lot of room for the actors to do whatever they want to do, because your intention, that you're if as long as you're going towards your intention, this script is going to work. It doesn't matter, our lead actor is British. He does an American accent through the piece, but he asked me, can I be British or should I be American? I'm like, it it really doesn't matter at all, because it's not going to change anything about what your intention is, and that was the most important thing to me when writing the script. When acting, it was like, you have this duality about you. There's a part that is human and would love company right now because you've been alone, but the other part is survival. And I'm like, as long as that comes across, I don't care if you're British or from Iran or from Pakistan. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like, it's a universal story, so you can do whatever you want. He decided to do American for the project, I think, just to test himself out. But yeah, that was the conversation I had with Amy, with Brian, with anybody. It was just like, if as long as your intentions are coming through, it's the project's going to work. So that was the conversation we had. And why they got drawn to it, because the intentions were strong and they felt like they had a clear path all the way through. There weren't a lot of questions in any scene about what I'm supposed to be doing, because every scene was pretty specific about what you're supposed to be doing right here. So that was cool. I think that's why.
And I think that's one of the advantages of doing a short film is it kind of forces that. You got to get to the point quickly, and let things set up quickly, and let the audience figure out and know exactly, okay, what is the intention of these characters and what's happening here. And again, I think for films successful, whether they're short or not, but particularly if they're short, films that are successful, yeah, let me say that a little bit better. For films that work, they are able to successfully show that intention, yeah, and quickly get it to the audience and you don't need a lot of tricks is not the right word, but again, you get to the point of the matter, and I think again that's one of the strengths of the film is that we understand that.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have a whole lot of time for character development in a short. I mean, you really
Right.
have to get very focused and have the actors know exactly the point they're trying to get across in that scene without a lot of ramp up time to build to that message, correct?
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason why I wrote it that way too. Is just, yeah, the it's a, you know, there's a plot that's very important here, and as long as I'm putting the characters in scenarios where their intentions can come out, that can be enough character development, especially for a short. In the feature, it's different. I have a feature script for this. You're gonna know way more about the characters than in the short. But for, yeah, a short, you don't really have the time to do all that. So you better put them in scenarios where we can understand their character pretty much immediately. And it doesn't, that doesn't mean their backstory, where they came from,
Right,
but none of those things are really important in the now. So you
right.
understand how they're going to react to this scenario in the now. You don't need to know who their mother is, who their father is, how many siblings they have, unless that's really important, or anything like that. So, yeah, I think that's why it worked, was because you just immediately are put into, I understand how this is going to go and what they're about, what the principles they stand behind in this apocalypse situation.
So you see this film, then you do hope to develop this into a feature, if I heard correctly.
Yeah, I had, after the short came out, a lot of people I worked with were just like, "Do you have a feature script for this?" And I was like, "No, I intended this to be a short." They're like, "You should write one." So I said, "Okay." And so now I have a feature script that I'm happy with. It took me a while to figure it out. I think starting from short and going out to feature was kind of a weird process, and so I had to get to a place of, okay, this short's done. It's not in my mind. We're done with it. We're going to retell it. And so I kind of, through quarantine, actually, I had the script beforehand, but I um, really buckled down on what wasn't working about it. And so now I think I've gotten to a place where, at least structurally, I really, really like it, and the characters really come out. And I think the story comes to a conclusion that, even if you saw the short, like, you'll still get a lot of watching the feature. Um, so, but that project's going to cost money, so we are in the process of trying to pitch that one, because that's a more expensive one.
Well, definitely, we'd like to, put our hat in the ring for that one as well. We'd be,
Yeah, I'd be happy to send it to you guys. You wanted to check it out.
yeah, would love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You might be like, "Ah, forget this project, the short's way better." And I'll be like, "Oh, fair enough."
No,
No.
Yeah, I'm,
it's
I'm ready for another debate. So we're ready for another debate at home. So please.
yeah,
Oh, there you go.
like
Fair
you
enough.
said, now you have time to explore more things and be curious. And like like we've said to all of our other and in conversations I've had with you as well, Mason, um, we're trying to build a community here of people of diverse creatives, and anybody that whose films we acquire. We definitely are looking at the long-term relationship. So we definitely would hope to stay in touch and hope that there's opportunities down the road for us. And maybe this feature is a perfect example of how that is. But definitely, please feel free to send that over. I'd love to take a look at
Sure.
that. I do find that I will just preface it to say, and I can't believe I'm already at this stage where I have to say, I now have some sympathy with those people who, are tasked with reading scripts, and it takes them forever to get back to you. So
Mhm.
don't take the length of time that it may take for the response as lack of interest. It's
Take your time.
more,
I got things to do. Take your
yeah,
time.
it's lack of time
Yep.
is the problem. Well, we've enjoyed our conversation, and we thank you so much, Mason, for uh, coming on our podcast today. Um, I would like to once again encourage our audience who are listening to this podcast to please check out Through the Night from Mason Greer. You can find it on Vimeo at our Vimeo on demand page. Um, and it's really an excellent short film. And thank you again, Mason, for being here. On behalf of Randy Wang and Harv Lacko, I want to say to everyone, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast, and bye-bye for now.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Mason.